morning. We are in the midst of a bushfire crisis tonight, the likes of which this state has never seen. Right now, there are an unprecedented 17 fire fronts burning out of control at emergency level. The RFS believes people are trapped in their homes across multiple locations. Fierce fire is still burning at emergency level at Woodford. This fire is threatening homes south of the Great Western Highway, and residents are being urged to seek shelter as this fire approaches. Wind is causing tough conditions for crews, embers being blown ahead of the fire front, and they're also creating spot fires. Jane Azzopardi is with us now from RFS headquarters. Jane, there are fears now that people could actually be trapped inside their homes.
That's right, Deb. At multiple locations along the mid-north coast, we are hearing at this stage unconfirmed reports that there are people trapped inside homes and that fire crews are not able to reach these people. The advice for them is to stay inside, seek shelter inside and wait until the fire front passes, and then when it has passed, try to get away from that structure if it is burning. It is very grim advice to pass on.
While houses on the ground explode into fireballs.
Heavenly Father, please help us.
For all those who tried to escape that day, the drive out was terrifying. Roads were choked with traffic. The fire was spreading rapidly. Once she realized how bad it was, Christina tried calling 911, hoping firefighters could rescue her mum. Later that day, she started searching at the evacuation centers and reported her mother missing. Then a few days later, searchers found her remains.
That was a living room. They must have found her because they dug there. Just sitting in the living room.
It's not yet clear how many people were trapped by the fire, but many of those who lived here were elderly, and some couldn't make it out on their own. In the days after, boards were plastered with desperate pleas from family members. Many suspected hundreds were unaccounted for. When the official list came out, more than 1,000 names were on it.
You know, there was a discussion. They talked about this. They said, Sheriff, if we put this out, you know, there's going to be big. There's going to be duplicate. It may you know, cause some people concern about the length of it. But I ultimately felt it was more important to get the information out.
Some of the names were on there twice. Other entries are incomplete. Each day, the list swells and shrinks depending on who else is reported missing and who is found. Hundreds of searchers have fanned out across the unrecognizable neighborhoods, picking through the ash and rubble of the 13,000 buildings that were incinerated here.
All of these properties were quickly searched after the fire, but now crews are taking a much more thorough look. And when they're done, they spray paint a marking on the driveway like this one. It says what time the crews were here and also whether or not there was a victim.
Phil, as you make your way up here, this is the tub and the shower. Okay. And that looks like the upper piece of it right there in front of you. So I think that's a bed.
Jason Denton and his team of volunteers came from Oregon to help out. They're focused on searching what were bedrooms and living rooms, places where people were likely to be.
So since we can't sift through everything, we're looking for the high probability areas.
And how does this compare to what your team would normally search?
Normally we're looking for a missing person out in the woods that's alive. And so this is drastically different than what we're normally used to looking for. Even if it's a person that's no longer alive, not of this scale. We have no idea how many or what, and we'll be out here. So this is a big eye opener. We brought 12 volunteers down here, and they'll all be changed when we get back.
They then, looking at them today, she feels consumed with guilt.
I did pack. You know, it was terrible to think how, you know, dying in flames, and I could have stayed longer and waited. It's just really awful.
Her mother, one of the many victims in what is now the deadliest fire ever in California, and that list will almost certainly grow as crews go lot by lot, picking through what once were homes and are now the site of a grim search.
And once again, I'm going to play the start of the Paradise Police dispatcher recording the morning of the event, telling people to stay and not leave. keeping them in homes.
Are we supposed to be evacuated or what?
No, you'll be notified. There's a fire north of Concal, up off of Highway 70. No danger to Paradise, okay?
Well, it says evacuation west side of Pence Road.
What says that?
Butte, fire.
Okay, we haven't been advised of that. If you have gotten a phone call or if you see flames or feel the need to leave, then do that at this time. But we haven't been notified, okay?
The emergency planners had divided the town into 14 zones. They would be evacuated in turn, depending on where the fire came from. 18 minutes after fire entered the town,
We've just issued mandatory evacuations for the entire town of Paradise.
I don't think anybody envisioned that happening. In the future, the city of Malibu is creating zones for evacuation so that rather than calling for everybody to leave at the exact same time, they can call zone 1 and zone 2, and then a few hours later, they can have other zones so that the highway is not going to be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
If they weren't signed up, they weren't going to get alert on their mobile devices, on their text messages, or for their emails.
But they would have had you activated the other system.
That's true.
Sonoma emergency manager opted out of activating mass cell phone alert for evacuations. Sonoma County never activated a mass cell phone alert that could have warned hundreds of thousands of people, the community, to evacuate their homes during Monday's deadly fire, saving many lives, I might add, as well. Sonoma County officials said they worried it would have caused confusion, but the Bay Area unit has learned the emergency personnel in Lake, Marin, and Orange counties all use the emergency wireless system to inform thousands of residents about evacuations in their counties.
Upgraded to the SOCO alert system that was activated in July of 2016.
The short answer for people who wonder, you know, if they're asking, why didn't you use the broader alert, what do you say?
The short answer is that in order 500,000 simultaneous phone calls is not an appropriate way to do effective evacuation alerts and warning.
But the people in Coffey Park, in Mark West Estates, in Fountain Grove, and beyond, many of those people told us they didn't get the alert. Are you saying that's because they weren't signed up for the proper alert?
I can't answer that question. I don't know if individual people got the alert or not.
I'm telling you, they didn't.
And I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that if they weren't signed up, they weren't going to get alert on their mobile devices, on their text messages, or for their emails.
But they would have had you activated the other system.
That's true. That's true.
And you decided not to.
I think I've justified my reasons. I think I've made my professional assessment. I think we're in a position where we use the tools that we thought would be most effective to get at the people. People didn't receive the alert. It was a very quick, fast-moving event. We did the best we could.
No, you did not do the best. No, sir, you cost many, many lives because you did not do your job. Maybe you were told to stand down, but you need to go on trial, sir. Santa Rosa residents from Fountain Grove to Coffey Park told similar stories from neighbors, law enforcement, smoke and fire at their doorsteps. I never got an alert. Asked about the decision. Now notice the guy's name, Christopher Hellgren. Hellgren, grinning through hell, folks, just with Joe Fryer. Hellgren, along with emergency coordinator, were both out of the area when they notified of the farms. He said he did not realize the magnitude until 6 a.m. Gee, 4 a.m., I got a call from my neighbor banging on my door and I got out. Why couldn't this guy get notified, huh? Oh, man, he said the 500,000 residents could have caused a traffic jam. Give me a break. Sonoma County is a broad area. People were getting out anyway.
Nothing left. As that fire was fast approaching on Sunday night, neighbors turned into first responders, going door to door to make sure everyone was safe.
It's devastating. It literally looks like a bomb went off.
When Heather Bowers saw ash raining down in her front yard Sunday night, She became the neighborhood emergency alert system.
They were like, what's going on? I'm like, you need to pack up your stuff and get out. I mean, like,
Bauer's mother and 2 brothers lost their homes, her mother escaping with only the clothes she was wearing. Did anybody get any warnings?
no.
Many people in the danger zones were caught by surprise and needed help getting out.
Elderly lady trapped at 3085 Atlas Peak Road.
Any units available to stop at 2322 Atlas Peak. They called advising their house is on fire and needing assistance evacuating.
But communication problems in general have been difficult.
Sonoma County Sheriff Rob Giordano says alerts were sent out, but admits not everyone would have gotten them.
Okay, all throughout town, there's multiple car pileups, and
you're a tow truck driver.
Yeah.
And so you've been seeing these cars because you're going up there to Paradise.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's so many personnel up there, so many emergency personnel. I mean, everywhere you look, there's nothing. Everything up there is everything but local cops. There's no local cops up there.
No Paradise Police?
I don't think so. I haven't seen any.
Well, they.
But we had Boyd County was that the sheriff that drove by. He was from Berryville or Yuba County or something like that. Yeah. And we're like, man, how'd they get here so fast? I mean, they had police everywhere down the hill, directing traffic, and
let's do the math. If the fire starts at 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, let's say, and now it's 11 o'clock, you're saying you're leaving? Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's 3 hours to get from Yuba City that they're going to be able to alert, to call, to bring sheriffs in there? Are you kidding me?
Yep. I've never seen it so well set up. I mean, they had sheriffs flagging everybody, go this way, go that way, at every light. They literally directed us. We couldn't go anywhere near Chico. We had to go. They directed all the traffic from our end of the area. From Clark to Orville. From Clark to Orville. They shut the highway. They shut Highway 99 down and wouldn't let us get on to go to Chico. We had to go out to Orville and go all the way around through Durham and those little towns to get to Chico because they shut off the on-ramp tonight. They wouldn't let us get on 99.
Why?
I don't know.
Kind of the name of the place.
You want a terminal cleaner?
No, I got plenty.
Pull over. Can we get on
Restaurant?
What?
The Rock House Restaurant.
Were you here when it happened?
No, the firemen forced me out of my house at 3 a.m. in the morning. They drove out behind me and it burned a couple hours later.
Wait, the fires didn't start till 6:30.
Go talking the next morning, Friday morning.
So you stayed here when it started?
Yeah, see, the fire was going west pretty fast. But this way to the south, it was going slower than a baby crawls. They could have easily stopped it at Deadwood or down here at Dogwood, or there was a number of places they could have stopped it.
Oh.
I'm sorry, man. Can we help at all? We got clothes, we got food. Do you need anything?
We've gotten lots of that from donation centers. I appreciate it.
Why didn't they come help you?
What's that?
Why didn't they come help you if they could have put it out?
I don't know, but when they forced me out at 3 a.m., I drive down to where the hardware store is 2 miles down the road. There's 50 engines lined up in a neat row. Sitting there dark, multiple dozers, nobody around.
While the fires are burning? Was the road passable here? It looked like this was hell to getting out of here.
Well, Friday morning, yeah. The fire didn't come through the pass up there until about 6 o'clock.
In the morning? So Thursday morning it started at 6:30. Paradise got torched at 8:30 in the morning. And that's down below here. So the campfire, they're saying it started at Polga.
Paradise is west.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was moving west pretty fast, but this way from the fire was south, and it was just crawling.
And they had bulldozers down below the road here, and they didn't bring them up the hill.
2 miles down the highway. They had row of 25 parked through the middle of the highway, another row of 25 parked off the side. They had all sorts of equipment. None of it ever got used.
I went down the wrong side of the highway.
Well, we're told that the people were being held up as late as 11 o'clock in the morning of leaving Skyway. They had one lane. They wouldn't let anybody. This gal was out of gas.
Yeah.
So they
escorted her out. They tried to stop me and tried to turn me around. I believe the cop told me to, go ahead and go by because you see my firefighter plates on my truck. For some reason, that just, that's the only thing I could think of because he was standing in front of my truck making me stop all the traffic behind me. And they were trying to, say to get out and run or go turn around or something, and I was like, I'm going. I'm going to
know what's going to happen. I can't go, turn around, go back, do anything, or stop. I got to keep going down that. I knew which way I had to go.
Evacuating, I was asleep.
And so how did you get out? Because I heard people that day were they were stuck in paradise. They couldn't get out till like those that got out were like 5, 6 o'clock at night.
I was driving past them while they were burning in their cars.
And were they all stuck in a line? It seemed like everybody was just waiting.
Some of them were, most of them were running.
Because the cars got too hot, I heard.
I don't know. Stuff was just catching on fire out of nowhere. It's hard to explain.
And
every time I talk about it, Facebook shuts me down.
Now, the fire started around 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon, and neighbors told me this fire swept through the mountains in a snap, not leaving any time for firefighters to get to this community.
You couldn't see the fire; all you saw was the smoke coming in, and then you felt the heat, and you knew the fire was on you.
2 doors down, neighbors say an elderly couple were inside. The woman was bedridden, and the man stayed with her as long as he could until the fire was there. Neighbors then said that he came out of the home and had burns all over, including over his face. Now, I just spoke with...
But I put together all the victims' testimonies, not all of them, a lot of them, interviews, and what they had in common, their common threads. And the common threads that you'll hear about, no evacuations orders were given the day of the fire. Blocked by non-local police from leaving the day of the fires. Not many got out. Most perished. The fire trucks stood down. No winds the morning of the fire. PG&E set up a massive staging area weeks before the fires, and so did FEMA out at the Chico airport. And look at this. They're calling this a forest fire. They can justify it. Again, they were not notified. No people were notified. The only way they got out was through Facebook or through friends calling and saying, get out. But many maybe had their LoJack or OnStars turned over where they were pulled over to the sides of the roads. You know, their testimony, many had to get out of their cars and walk because that's what the police were telling them to do. Well, why were they having to get out of their cars and walk?
In my head, I really need to leave because it said, the evacuation orders, mandatory orders, evacuate.
Did evacuation orders come? Because most people say they got no evacuation orders.
No, it was a warning at first, but like I said, by that time, I was already done packing my shit and telling the neighbors to leave immediately or they're going to die. They're going to die. They all know I'm a firefighter. I have a big red truck, firefighter truck, and, they know who I am. So one guy was out there trying to, he had a leaf blower trying to blow all the shit off, and I was like, dude, this is going to go, and you don't want to be around here, when it happens. And then 80 football fields a minute, dude. It didn't take me long to get out to that road, and then, shit started getting really bad.
Move forward in front of this, there was a red barn kind of in front of this mobile home park, and traffic just stopped for 30, 45 minutes, about that, and I started hearing that people in that mobile home park were still around their homes and their cars, and the traffic was so jammed that they couldn't pull away from their homes because the traffic went all the way back to their home, and they couldn't come down the driveway to get out onto the road and get away from their houses, which were on fire. The flames started slowly catching up to our cars, and there was a Pepsi truck back behind us that started unloading all their stuff with the plan of possibly having people load up in there, and then having airdrops drop on us as a last-ditch effort to keep us alive, basically. Fortunately, they attempted to make a run for Skyway, and so the group ahead of me tried to go down Skyway to get out, but which allowed me to move forward up until about I was across from this fast trip, and but unfortunately the people that went on Skyway to get out, that excursion failed. They ended up having to abandon their vehicles and then being ushered back by the firemen. And at that point, they basically told us we were surrounded by fire. We were not going anywhere in our cars. We are not escaping. We just have to sit put. And so they blocked off the parking lot that's being put in with the Optimo and the cafe they were building. It wasn't yet complete, and they blocked that off. And everyone just got out of their cars, left their cars on the road, and then went to that parking lot as a last-ditch effort place to just make our stand, and hopefully we wouldn't burn to death.
I know this is really a hard question. And how long you lived in Paradise?
For about a year and a half.
And
my roommate died at my house.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she didn't get out in time. She went back to get her cats and toys.
She went back to get her cats, and that what cost her her life?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How many people do you know got out that you personally have talked to that got out of there?
Very few.
How many do you know that you personally know that you haven't heard from 6 weeks later?
I don't know, at least a couple hundred.
Why isn't there more people asking where everybody is?
I don't know if that many people got out. Like they're saying they did. And there were multiple convoys. We saw about probably 4 or 5. And none of the police or sheriffs that we saw were local.
That's what we heard. It was all militarized police.
Yeah, we told it was private military. And actually, as we were coming back, so we realized, okay, this is headed right for Paradise. We've got to go. We drive back, and as we're driving back, a convoy actually, we pulled over and they passed us and we followed behind them. And it turns out that convoy that was in front of us, right past our street, right at the Paradise city limit sign, they blocked the road off. Every time, now we've been in that house for 11 years. And every time there's been a fire, Pence Road is packed. And it takes hours and hours to get out. And because there's Pence Road, Clark Road, and Skyway that you're supposed to use to exit.
Right.
And because they blocked it right at the city limit, when we left, it was almost at, 11:30? Yeah, we left at 11:30. It was 11:30, and when we left, I could have drove 100 miles an hour all the way down the hill because there was no other cars.
Wait, so I was told guys were parked on Skyway until like 5 o'clock at night and couldn't go anywhere.
Correct. So why was Pence Road blocked? Why weren't they using it to exit? And when we got down past Line Saddle where Durham Pence and Pence Road meet, which will then take you, if you take Durham Pence, it connects to Clark.
Right.
They had that blocked. And the only reason they let us through is because our daughter's car was almost out of gas and we couldn't go down 70 to Orville to get out. We had to take the Durham Pence Road and go to the corner at Clark and Durham Pence where that gas station was and get gas for her.
So they let you through. So they let you through the blockade.
They escorted us through. Yeah, escorted us actually. Until we got to the traffic jam, they said, okay, well, wait here in line, just keep turning your car off and, you know.
Excuse me, ladies, I need to ask this question, Sharon and Susan, excuse me. But CBS News, The Guardian, The New York Times, they're saying 52,000 people evacuated.
I don't believe it. I don't think so.
Well, how could they evacuate if it's blocked from getting out? If Pence Road, which is the upper bench of Paradise, you can't get out there and it's blocked, how are they going to get out?
And there wasn't many cars down the four-way stop from our end on Durham Pence. There wasn't many down there either. There wasn't many cars at all down there. And what's interesting, too, is that gas station, I ended up, he had no power. He had no power. There were two PG&E trucks parked out front of this gas station, and they were doing stuff, working on the power poles, but they had turned his power off. None of, we didn't lose power up in Paradise, but they had his power off. So we couldn't pump gas. So he was very kind and let me leave my car there. And we just left it, and I rode them out.
Briar joins us now for more. Briar, given what you've seen in Paradise, what really stands out for you?
Well, Adrian, really just the sheer level of destruction. In a town of 26,000, 13,000 buildings were destroyed, so nearly everybody is now homeless. People are living in tents at the Walmart, at the fairground. You have families of 5 or 6 cramped in a single motel room and now trying to figure out just what's next. And of course, the other thing is all of the uncertainty around the death toll and just how high it could be. And it's really hard to understate all of the confusion around the number of people still missing. A lot of people have been putting up posts online looking for their relatives, and I spoke with one woman who said she received a message from someone that her aunt had been found. So obviously a lot of relief there, but then she found out a few hours later that that person was wrong. Her aunt was still missing. So that miscommunication and confusion really just makes a terrible situation all that much worse.
It's so interesting to get your perspective on this, Briar. You've covered wildfires like this before. You were in Fort McMurray when fire tore through that city. How does the situation in Paradise compare?
Well, there's no doubt that the fire in Fort McMurray was devastating, but really what happened in Paradise was worse on every single level. Think of the evacuation. In Fort McMurray, 90,000 people were able to leave the city, and no one died as they left Fort McMurray. Well, in Paradise, that certainly didn't happen. We don't know how many people didn't make it out, but we do know some people had to abandon their cars and try to outrun the fire on foot. In Fort McMurray, a lot of people were certain that they were going to rebuild. Some of the folks I've been speaking with in Paradise say that they're not sure that they want to go back. Not only is the town nearly destroyed, but they don't want to move back into neighborhoods where there's been so much death, Adrian.
Okay, Briar, thanks very much. Briar Stewart in California tonight.
And that fire crews are not able to reach these people. The advice for them is to stay inside, seek shelter inside and wait until the fire front passes, and then when it has passed, try to get away from that structure if it is burning. It is very grim advice to pass on.